Where you go, you come. I must tell you, Cabo. Cabo. Anytime we see you, where you go, you come. We must tell you, Cabo. Anytime we see you, where you go, you come. We must tell you, Cabo.
Please be seated. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please be seated. I now give the mic to the next President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Honorable Alpha Timbo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ronald Idwani. Thank you very much, all of you, for giving me this standing ovation. They have introduced a number of people here tonight, but I have an elder brother who graced this occasion. He has just arrived.
Sorry about that.
He is one of those contesting also for the position for which I am contesting. And he's an elder brother of mine, in the person of Mr. Ambassador Bon Wuri. I was not really expecting him, but he is here, so I am very much honored to recognize his presence. I want to thank most sincerely the chairman, Mr. Atumani Dinke. Can you please stand up so that people see you? Mr. Prince Commander, my Secretary General, and all the members of the Timbo Caucus here in the United Kingdom who have tried to put up this particular event. I want all of you to stand up so that people see you, wherever you are. Let's give them a big hand. Zainab Binta Kamal. I start by thanking them because about 6 months ago, I had the opportunity of talking to Sierra Leoneans here in the United Kingdom, where I set up this caucus. They have been in existence for about 6 months, and tonight they are able to perform this wonderful event. I want to thank them very much for the efforts that they have taken and for making sure that today we are here to address a huge number of Sierra Leoneans and other important personalities resident here in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Chairman, he happens to be a college mate, Mr. Dabo. I've not seen him for the past 20 years. So when I saw in the program that he was going to serve as the Master of Ceremony here, I was very much gratified. He was my senior, and a lot took place at Probe College. I leave it there. Thank you very much. On a more serious note, on Saturday, May 23rd this year, at the CCC Event Hall in Bells Beach, Maryland, I had the honor and privilege of addressing many Sierra Leoneans and other nationals. But then the theme was a message of hope to all Sierra Leoneans. At that meeting, I was able to explain to the audience then the platform in which I am coming from for me to become the next president of Sierra Leone as the successor of His Excellency Dr. Ernest Bai Koroma. Tonight, I'm here in Holiday Inn, here in London, to meet with you all and to talk to you on some of the aspects that I think place me in a unique position for me to be elected as flag bearer of the Sierra Leone People's Party, as well as President of the Republic of Sierra Leone. And I know this is what you expect me tonight. I'm going to divide my speech into three. The platform in which I am coming from to assume the position of president. The first platform I will mention is that of the Sierra Leone People's Party as an institution and a political party. That's the first platform. The second platform has to do with Alpha Timbo as an individual, what I represent, what I have done over the years, that placed me in a unique position, more than the other contestants to that particular position, that makes me a suited person to become president of the Republic of Sierra Leone. The third aspect of the platform will have to do some aspect of my vision, what I think we need to put in place for us to be able to move Sierra Leone to another level. So these are the three aspects that I am going to touch on briefly tonight. I'll start with the first one, SLPP as a political party and as an institution. The law of Sierra Leone is governed, we are governed by the National Constitution Act No. 6 of 1991. The legal framework itself stipulates as follows. For one to become a member in a political system, you have a number of options that are available. In the lower rung of the political ladder, there is some form of flexibility. If you want to become a member of a local council representative, you can either go through a registered political party or you can go as an independent. That's number one. When you want to aspire for parliamentary position, there is also the legal provision. It simply says a person can be an elector for somebody to go to parliament when he or she can read English and he or she can read and write English with a level sufficient enough to enable him or her to contribute to debate in parliament. Then you can either belong to a political party or you can also go into parliament as an independent. So there is also some form of flexibility. But when you want to go as the president of the Republic of Sierra Leone, there is no flexibility, it is mandatory. It is mandatory for you to belong to a political party, and me, Alpha Timbo, decided to join the Sierra Leone People's Party as a conduit in which I will pass for me to be able to attain the position of president of the Republic of Sierra Leone. And that decision I took over 10 years ago. So I'm a member of the Sierra Leone People's Party, and I have been a member, I'll always continue to be a member. There are few reasons that compelled me to become a member of the Sierra Leone People's Party. I will only give you two tonight. Firstly, it has to do with the motto of the party, which is one country, one people. It shows that as a political party, tribe, religion is not in existence. We are all the same. Everybody has equal opportunities in the Sierra Leone People's Party. That's the first thing that attracted me as an individual that caused my enrollment into the Sierra Leone People's Party. That's the first. The second, coming from the north, over the years, politicians have negatively preached the regional divide when it comes to fulfilling their own personal ambitions, thereby creating confusion between especially the major tribes, the Timnis and the Mendes. And I decided that to bridge that political divide that seemed to permeate our political structure, I decided to join the Sierra Leone People's Party so that at the end of the day, when you are a Timni, a Dimba, a Loco, you should know that SLPP is there for you. Those are the two main reasons that I will give tonight that compelled me to become a member of the Sierra Leone People's Party. Additionally, still in the legal contest, for one to become a member of a political party and exercise the right to vote and to be voted for, the age requirement is 18 years. But for you to become a president, it is 40 years. So which means in effect, even if you are 39 plus, you cannot become a president. I'm mentioning these few aspects of the legal framework because many a time people talk about level playing field, level playing field. We talk about level playing field, but sometimes the field is not level. Because when you ask the reasons behind the stipulations of those ages, sometimes it is very difficult for you to know, to say why it has not been 17 and a half or 17 or 35 or 38. That's why I'm saying that. So that is for the legal contest. And for me, I saw SLPP as a very attractive political party, which I would use to become president. Every political party has its own political base. For the SLPP, it is undeniable that the South and the East have over the years been predominantly the traditional votes for the SLPP. And for me, it is deliberate coming from the North to be a member of that particular party. As I said, for us to be able to gain political power, you have to secure considerable number of votes as a national figure. No one region can give you presidency. And in Sierra Leone, you take a look at the demographics, which I will come at a point later, you'll be able to see what I'm saying. So that's the first point. And I believe I would use the Sierra Leone People's Party as a conduit for me to become the president of the Republic of Sierra Leone. And that's the first point, as I said. SLPP as a platform is the one Timbo has chosen to run for the presidency of the Republic of Sierra Leone. Having said that, I mentioned that the second platform in which I am going to explain tonight is what I represent, Timbo as an individual. The electability value of the candidate is very crucial if you should attain the position of president. And I am saying, for you to become a president, you have to have a national appeal. And I believe I carry those values. Mr. Gilwani, who introduced me briefly, have mentioned a few of them. I believe over the years, I have served as a teacher. I taught for about 7 years, thereby contributing to human development capacity. Today, as I travel all over the world, here in the UK, the United States of America, and back home in Sierra Leone, anywhere you go, you meet your students, those that you have taught over the years. Most of them are occupying strategic positions, both in the private and public sector, nationally and internationally. And most of those people that I have met, today I'm seeing some of them, have vowed that when SLPP gives me the leadership, they are going to come fully on board to support my candidacy for me to be elected as president. So I'm very proud about that. Secondly, I served as Secretary General of the Sierra Leone Teachers Union for about 10 consecutive years unblemished. It is very difficult to lead a 100% literate organization for 10 years, leaving that organization without people pointing hands at you. I have been that particular person. In the Teachers Union, we left a number of legacies which we collectively achieved. As somebody said, we took over the union when the salaries of teachers were unpaid for 2 years, 3 years. I suffered from that when I entered the teaching profession from Tobe College. I taught for 1.5 years without receiving salary. We started the strikes against the APC regime at that material point in time. It was during that period that I was elected Secretary General. And since my tenure, we took a promise to uplift the status of the teaching profession. So collectively, with my colleagues then, Bankabu, who was then president, we were able to uplift the status of the teacher. As Mr. Gilwani said, the first thing that we did was to ask for a collective bargaining certificate. The collective bargaining certificate gave us the legal mandate for us to sit with government and the employers to negotiate terms and conditions of service for teachers. That was the first thing that we achieved. When we secured the bargaining certificate, the next thing that we did was to put up a collective bargaining agreement which we negotiated with government that improved the terms and conditions of service for teachers. I'm proud to say that during my tenure, the teachers' conditions of service, as Mr. Dabo said, significantly improved. The next legacy that I left in the SLTU was the construction of the Rogaland House. How did that come? During the time when we were very much active in the union, when we were advocating, most of the landlords who are housing our SLT in the various offices are giving us problems. Everywhere they give us notice. If the notice does not materialize, they will increase the rent. We saw that as a problem and we decided to erect our own offices. Today, as I speak, we go to Sierra Leone Teachers Union has offices in all the district headquarters, all the provincial headquarters towns in the county. I'm very proud of that. So infrastructurally, the union has grown. Also, when we invite executive members to come to attend to meetings in Freetown, and some of them put up to relatives, people call them, you have called these troublemakers again. They say, SLT, you get meeting. Do you want to try quickly when I go back? We saw that as a problem. So we therefore decided to take up the challenge to construct a hotel of our own, which we have named Hotel 510. And when we say 510, it's October 5, which is World Teachers Day. Those of you who have gone to Sierra Leone and have visited the Sierra Leone teachers, you can prove that that edifice is there. It's a magnificent structure. It carries all the aspects that you can think of in any modern day hotel. So we are very proud of that also. That's an important legacy that we have left in the teaching profession. So I am saying tonight that when I am elected presidential candidate for the SLPP, the vast majority of teachers, who are today more than 20,000, most of them have vowed to support my candidacy because they believe over the years I've impacted positively their lives. So that is another value that I have with no other candidate in the SLPP possess. That's a specific value. The third value which I have, which I think no other candidate from the SLPP possess, is I have also served as Secretary General of the Sierra Leone Labour Congress. Mr. Gidwani mentioned that the Labour Congress is the umbrella organization of all workers in Sierra Leone. You have the dock workers union there, the mine workers, the petty traders, the transport workers. These are people who are relatively illiterate. And for me to be able to manage them for 5 consecutive years, I believe I have done something that many people cannot do in Sierra Leone. In the SLT, when you present a report, they will correct the English line by line, sentence by sentence. At the Labour Congress, if you decide to write a report that carries huge English, they will tell you, please, that we are not to be big English. We just want to know what you want to do tomorrow if they not pay me, this and that. So I am saying, I have the relevant experience to have worked with those grassroots people and I know exactly what is their expectation. That is a unique value which I have, which no other candidate in the SLPP possess, that will take us there. So many of those people have vowed to support my candidacy if I'm given the leadership of the Sierra Leone People's Party. The fourth value which I have also, which I think is unique, I have also served the sporting family in Sierra Leone. I served as president of Mighty Blackpool for almost 5 years, Secretary General for about 10 years, and I served as chairman of the Sierra Leone Premier League Board. I have perfect relationship with the football family and the sporting family. That is also an important voting bloc because they know part of my vision is to uplift the game. Most of them have stated that. So Timbo, if SLPP knows, let them just give you this, they were there to help you in the campaign. That is also a block which I have, which many people don't have. The other block that I have, which is an important voting block, is civil society. During the time when we had this rebel war, we wanted to restore the peace in Sierra Leone. That was the time we established various civil society organizations to be able to complement the efforts of government. And I was the principal founder of the civil society movement, which is the umbrella organization of all civil society organizations. I was its first chief spokesperson and chief coordinator. I worked with the Civic Development Unit, the Movement for Restoration of Democracy, the Campaign for Good Governance, and a whole lot of them during that period. And we were able to collectively ensure that we put the war to an end. I participated in the Lome Peace Agreement that led eventually to the setting up of a national unity government under President Ahmad Tijan Kaba. And that was how I came to accept the position of Minister of Labour, Social Security and Industrial Relations. Because after the Lome Peace Accord, government was compelled to establish a government of national unity. And it was then that I was made minister and Leda Booth was my deputy at that material point in time. So all of those are important values that I believe I possess, which are very critical in shaping the agenda for Sierra Leone. Apart from that, I have relevant experience in governance. as a Minister of Labour, Social Security and Industrial Relations, President Kaba promised the people of Sierra Leone a number of things. First, that he was going to end the war. Second, he was going to capacitate the Sierra Leoneans for them to be able to take up the destiny. Then thirdly, he said he was going to construct a bridge linking Sierra Leone, Lunge to Freetown, and also to establish a national social security scheme. That was within my own purview. And I'm pleased to say that that is an institution that is currently existing in Sierra Leone. So I'm very proud of that. So I was able to actualize the dream of President Kaba to reality. But side by side with that also, we established a social safety net, which takes care of the old and the needy, those who under normal circumstances were unable to contribute to the National Social Security Scheme because either they have passed the age or those that have suffered during the war. So that scheme is also existing. Unfortunately, with this administration, not much has been achieved as far as that particular area is concerned. So I'm very proud of that achievement also. I established the Industrial Court. And the objective of establishing the Industrial Court was as a result of the fact that I had the experience which workers faced when I was Secretary General of the Sierra Leone Teachers Union and Secretary General of the Sierra Leone Labour Congress. Most of the workers, most of the employers who employ our Sierra Leoneans, after they have worked for 5 or 10 years, because they believe they have accumulated benefits, what they will do is they look out for a trivial issue and dismiss that particular individual. They had no place of recourse for them to be able to enforce their rights. The moment they take the individual to the Ministry of Labour, you have the lawyers writing to that particular individual that my services have been retained and I have advised my client not to go to the Ministry of Labour. That will be the end of that. So to circumvent that situation, I established the Industrial Court. Today, no employer will work on the rights of the individual without facing the due process of the law and as quickly as possible. So I'm very proud of that, and I believe with those achievements in the Ministry of Labour, I have the relevant experience that placed me in a unique position for me to be able to drive the vision of Sierra Leone ahead. I also established the Employment Overseas Program. After the war, a good number of our youths have been involved in the war. We established the DDR program where they were demobilized, they were given training skills but without employment. By then we were unable to attract foreign direct investment. Many of the institutions that are existing today, like the London Mining, the African Minerals, the Koidu Holdings, they are not in existence at that time. That was the time we used our expertise to be able to attract foreign investors to come and seek employment for our people back home. And that was how I introduced the Employment Overseas Program. I'm very proud of that. With all of these, ladies and gentlemen, I am saying this has placed me in a unique position for me to be able to steer the ship of state. So I can summarize it by saying I have the relevant professional, political, and work experience to be able to take Sierra Leone to another level. I now come to the third aspect. I believe I have explained a few aspects of my achievements in Sierra Leone, what I stood for. Now I know you would want to know, if you become president, what you want to do for the people of Sierra Leone. Many people, this is what they want to know. I belong to the SLPP. And as a political party, I have the experience that for the SLPP as an institution, even when I come here, I come and elucidate everything that I believe when I become president. Those are the things that I will do. I will be telling lies. SLPP has a policy of establishing a manifesto committee. That manifesto committee is charged with the responsibility of setting the broad agenda of government. And it is through that broad agenda of government that the priorities of government are going to be stated. However, I am saying, when I be elected as presidential candidate for the Sierra Leone People's Party, amongst the key priorities that will be encapsulated in that particular manifesto will be as follows. I pledge that Sierra Leone will be ruled under basic fundamental principles. Firstly, I pledge we are going to uphold the Constitution of Sierra Leone. That is very important. and that of the SLVP. We must promote probity and accountability in the government machinery of the state. We have to promote the rule of law, but in all of this, the interests of the state will supersede all other considerations. As a matter of priority, the first thing that will occupy my administration will be the establishment of state institutions that will promote good governance and democracy. Many people will not understand what I mean by that. Some years back, when President Barack Obama visited Africa, one of the things he said to African leaders was that Africa don't necessarily need strong leaders. What they need are strong institutions. And people don't understand. I have been coming to the United Kingdom for a number of years, but last year I was here, this year I'm here. I give you just one example. The road transport system here in the United Kingdom. For over 25 years, when I was Secretary General of SLTU, I came to the United Kingdom. You want to board a bus, you come to the place, you have your money, you pay, and the thing turns like this and you are allowed inside. The driver collects. But then, I know, over the years, they face the problem where maybe a driver will come, they say, I have been hijacked, the money has been taken, or this and that. So decided to change. When I came last year, I found out that if you want to use the transport services, you have a place where you can go and obtain a ticket that maybe that will take you for either a week or a month or maybe more than a month. So by so doing, the process of collection of the money is absolutely guaranteed. Because where you go and pay is not where you are using the services. When you come to use the service, the system has been established whereby if your ticket is up to date, then the system will show you that you have been given clearance to enter either the bus or the train or whatever. But then, if it expires, even if 1 second, you will not be allowed. Is that not so? I passed through that. I decided to do it deliberately for me to test the system. Right? And it happened like that. So by so doing, they have put in mechanisms in place whereby income will be derived from those services to maintain the system again. But then knowing the individual the way we are, if those people would have been collecting the monies, and so 10 chances to 1, some amount would have been missing, right? In terms of accountability. So when you establish institutions, even the issue of corruption will be curbed. So I will concentrate more on the establishment of institutions to promote good governance, probity, and accountability rather than relying on the curative aspect. We have the anti-corruption in Sierra Leone. What happens? Because the system is porous, where the people collecting the revenue have several ways where they pilfer. When somebody steals 50 million, 100 million, some people have even taken billions, you bring that particular person to the judiciary, and he has with him over 50 million to bribe a judge who is not being paid 5 million euros a month. What do you expect? The corruption continues like that. No? So what we have to do is to make sure that we put up the mechanism whereby those things will not happen. So that is what I mean by establishing institutions. But then not only establishing them, we have to capacitate Sierra Leoneans for them to be able to make use of those institutions. As I travel around the world, here in the United Kingdom, many Sierra Leoneans are occupying strategic positions in the various places of work, and they are doing extremely well. So which means you have the capacity to translate some of these things back home in Sierra Leone. Why are we not prepared to do that? This is the time for you to be able to do that, and I call on you for you to be able to know that we are looking forward to that particular situation. So that is going to be my first priority. The second is promoting education and human development. This would have been my first priority. But because of the points that I have mentioned, I have brought education and human development as a second priority. And because there is a positive correlation between education, social, political development, it is clear that with improved access and quality the society will develop, because you have the necessary skills, you have the necessary expertise for you to be able to run your institutions. But we are not only limiting the issue of access, but we will also make sure that we improve on quality of our teaching and learning processes, and with special emphasis to technical and vocational education. We must ensure that the students, the graduates that we produce, they must have the opportunity of having a job in the job market. And that is why in the development of the curriculum, we have to interface the private sector as well as the school system for us to be able to know exactly what is the expectation of the private sector in terms of students that they want to see graduate in the economy. So that is an important aspect which my administration is going to pay premium on. And over and above that, we have to ensure that we pay the teachers. We pay the teachers and those who are education sector workers a living wage. We must be in a position to be proud of our teachers. Because if you have not been able to reach a particular level of education, you should be proud of your child to attain an educational level that maybe you, the parents, have not been able to attain. So it is going to be a deliberate policy for our teachers to be paid very well. The third aspect will be our healthcare delivery system. From what has happened today, you will see that the Ebola outbreak, this has exposed our healthcare delivery system, which shows that despite the fact that we have introduced the free health care for our women, our mothers, and children, that is not enough. I have always said that is cosmetic. The type of healthcare system that we will introduce will be in line with social security principles. Thank God I have the experience. We've established NACIP. We have 3 contingencies: old age, invalidity, death, and survivors. The next thing that NACIP should have done is to undertake an actuarial evaluation of the situation. Look at the healthcare delivery system and come out with the policy options. Look at the rate of contribution for that particular scheme, the benefits and the qualifying conditions. Because at the end of the day, when you have a social security scheme, you have people to live longer lives. Is that not so? And the only thing that will guarantee that is when you have a very comprehensive healthcare delivery system. And that is going to be another important aspect in our administration. Then we come to governance and security. Our administration will continue to do everything possible to maintain peace and security. And the reason is simple. Without peace and security, no development can take place. And we can only be able to do that when we strengthen effectively our organs of government. That is the legislative, the executive, and the judiciary. We must ensure that these institutions work effectively and independently. Because without that, we will find ourselves very difficult to promote our development agenda. So that is the other aspect which is very important. Then we come to infrastructure. Reliable infrastructure is a very important aspect in any development agenda. But for Sierra Leone, I must say, because of decades of neglect